Welcome back to the DVK Parsha Series. We'll be learning Mamorim from Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Matos, Masei. In Mamar Pei Zayin, Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz discusses Genus HaKa'as, how bad is anger for us. In this week's Parsha, Klal Yisrael are sent out to war against the Midianites. The Midianites sent women into the Jewish camp to seduce the men, to make them have illicit relations with them, and make them serve the idol Baal Peor. And therefore Klal Yisrael are commanded to go out to war against Midian and to destroy all of them. However, the Pasuk says in Perek Lamed Aleph Pasuk Yud Gimel that Moshe and Elazar went out. They went to go and greet all of the generals and the armies that came back from war. And they said to Klal Yisrael, "Nu, what's going on?" Vayomer Aleihem, Moshe, Hichiyisem Kol Nekeva. You left all of the women alive. How is it that you did not destroy the women from the Midianites? They were the ones who seduced Klal Yisrael. At the end of the day, they were the ones who caused the Jewish men to sin. How could you leave them alive? But Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz brings the Gemara in Pesachim. Vayiktzov Moshe. Moshe got angry. And that is the focus in this week's parsha, in this point here, in this maimah, that Moshe got angry. Now, there were two halachas that were taught to Klal Yisrael straight after this war. One of them was tumas meis, the halachas of one who becomes contaminated by being in the same room, under the same roof, as someone who's dead, a dead body. There are halachas of tumas meis. A second area of halacha, which was taught in the sixth parsha, is what to do with utensils that were received from a non-Jew. The kashering process, a kli that became treif from a non-Jewish man using non-kosher food inside such a dish, as well as tevilas keilim, the halachas of lifting them up from the tumah of a non-Jew to becoming a kli, a vessel which now belongs to a Jew. So there were two areas. One was the area of tumah on a person, and the other was removing the, so to speak, contamination of the vessels and making the vessels roi fitting for a Jew to use. These two halachas Moshe Rabbeinu should have taught to Klal Yisrael. However, the Gemara in Pesachim explains, Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz brings down over here, in his second paragraph, he says, V'chein Amar b'Gemara Pesachim, Reish Lakish Amar Reish Lakish says, Kol Adam shekoyes, any person who becomes angry, Im Chachamhu, if he's a wise person, Chachmasoi mistalekes mimenu, his wisdom leaves him. Mi Moshe, and it's learnt out from Moshe. Tersiv, as it writes in this week's parsha, Vayiktzov Moshe al pekudei hachayil. Moshe became angry with the members of the army. Uksiv, and further it writes, Vayomer Elazar hakohen al anshe hatzava habayim milchama. Elazar had to speak up and teach the second halacha to Klal Yisrael. Moshe taught them about becoming pure from the tumah of a dead person. But Elazar had to come up and teach them the halachas, Zois chukas haTorah, this is the law of the Torah, Shetziva es Hashem es Moshe, that Hashem commanded Moshe. Elazar had to teach Klal Yisrael the halachas of kashering vessels. The Gemara explains, Mechalal, by the fact that Elazar had to teach this halacha, Mechalal implies the Moshe Eyalam Mine, that it left Moshe, that Moshe forgot this halacha. The Gemara in Pesachim learns out from this week's parsha that when one becomes angry, his chokhmah, his wisdom, leaves him. Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz explains that yes, this is a terrible midah, but we have to work on leaving kas. We have to work on making sure that we do not become angry. How do we do that? Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz begins to explain this in his third paragraph, and he says, "Haderech laharchik minafshosenu es midas hakas." The way for us to remove anger from us, b'vaday hi al yedei limud v'hispoinus rabba b'divrei Chazal begenus midas hakas. It's for us to learn the words of Chazal in Gemara, in Midrash, about how dangerous anger can be for us. And the more we understand how dangerous anger can be for us, the more we will work on being extra cautious to distance ourselves from any anger whatsoever. As he explains, Ki midas hakas muvas es a shikul hadas. Kas can distort any judgment. And in the first paragraph, in this sikh, in this maimah, Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz explains from the Gemara in Nedorim. He says that Chazal write, Amar Rabba bar Chana Amar Rabba Bar Rav Huna, Kol HaKoyes, anyone who becomes angry, Afilu Shchina, Eina Chashuva Kenegdoi. At that moment when he's angry, the anger consumes him so much that the divine presence, the Shechina, is not even important to him. At that moment, anything halachic, anything which is Torah-based, leaves his mind, and the anger completely consumes him. Rabbi Yirmiyah Midifti says another idea, Mishakeach Talmudoi. He forgets his learning, and more than that, Moisif Tipshus, he even continues to become more foolish. Shneimar, as the Pasuk writes in Koheles, Kikas Bechik Ksilim Yanuach. Anger will rest in the lap, in the bosom of a ksil, of a fool. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Amar Rav Nachman, the son of Yitzchak, says, Biadua, one who becomes angry, it's known she'avon osov merubin mizchuyosov. It must be that his sins are more than his merits. As the Pasuk says, Baal Chema Rav Pesha, one who is someone who is angry. Baal Chema, he's an angry person. Rav Pesha, he has many iniquities. There's another Chazal, also in the Dorim, Amar Omari, Kol HaKois, anyone who becomes angry, Kol Meni Gehinim Sholti Boy, he is consumed by all different terrible things. And Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz concludes with another idea. He says, you know what, sometimes we think that kas, anger, is the right thing. We are rightfully angry. As in this week's Parsha, says Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz, Moshe was rightfully angry. We sent Klal Yisrael out to destroy Midian. And obviously the goal was to destroy the Midianite women because they were the ones who brought the michshol, the downfall, to the Jewish men. So surely it would have been proper to ensure that the women were also killed in this war. And therefore, surely Moshe's anger was correct. Says Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz, nevertheless, in the 5th paragraph, he says it's certain over here, Moshe kedin haya. The anger of Moshe was kedin, it was correct. He was rightfully angry. Nevertheless, even when someone becomes angry, kedin, for the right reasons, because he's rightfully angry, nevertheless, it is still a negative thing. We need to remove ourselves from anger as much as we possibly can. Rav Chaim Shmuelevitz explains, ultimately over here, when a person's anger leaves him, when a person becomes angry and his chokhmah, his wisdom leaves him, it's not necessarily a punishment for becoming angry, he explains. Inyan TV. Anger is such a strong midah. It is a midah, it is a character trait which consumes someone altogether. That they forget where they are, they forget what they're doing, they forget who they are. And therefore, even though sometimes one rightfully has the right to become angry, nevertheless, they need to remove themselves from anger. And I have to mention at this point as well, the importance of staying away from anger on Erev Shabbos. The importance of staying away from anger on Erev Rosh Hashanah. At these times where we have the opportunity to collect so much bracha, we need to ensure that we have shalom. And the idea is to remove any potential anger. And even if we feel that of course we should get angry, we are right here and they're wrong, and we need to get angry because they're wrong and we need to show them that they're wrong. Nevertheless, one needs to stay away from chaos, from anger, as much as they possibly can.